While I have great respect for everything we do in water and sewer, rarely do I hear, hey, I want to go there because when you flush the toilets, they always work. Granted, if you travel abroad, that's kind of a nice thing, but it's not really your primary, hey, guess where we're going this weekend. Usually it has to do with you're going someplace because there's a quality of life, there's an amenity there, there's an attraction there that you want to engage in. There's something that captures your leisure interest. And in Winter Haven, we've got a lot of great leisure opportunities already available to our community. Probably one of the most well-renowned is our chain of lakes. While it's a natural treasure and it provides so much for the environmental stewardship aspect, it is a tremendous recreational element for our community as well. It's what gave birth to Cypress Gardens. It's what gave birth to so many of the world championship water skiers that come out of the area, the fishing that takes place in our community. So we've got some really awesome recreational development. Where we've had a little bit of a lag over the past several years is while we had a lot of growth in the early 2000s up to 2007, that little wobble in the economy that we had caused us to have to pull back a little bit while we had all these new people come in. We weren't really able to keep up from a recreational standpoint. A lot of great world-class facilities when they were originally built, but they didn't get renovated or expanded over time as you would probably expect them to do. We've also grown as a community. When Deric and I first came back to Winter Haven in 2001, we were a community of about 28,000. We're bumping 40,000 right now. And that's in that roughly 14-year period. So there's a lot of growth that happened that we've got to now accommodate for. So in 2014, we started putting together an assessment from a Parks and Recreation standpoint. Where do we need to grow? What do we need to improve and evolve our community to make it the place that you want to live in, that you want to visit on the weekend if you're from out of town, that you maybe want to relocate your business to because there's something there that's going to attract your workforce and your clientele. When you have businesses that are locating, they want a strong economy, they want strong infrastructure, they want good education that helps build their workforce, and they want an environment that's going to cause people to want to live there. You know, in today's market, those of you that are in technology know you can live in a lot of different places and work in a whole other community. I have a friend who's a sales rep in Georgia and lives in Orlando. Ask him, why do you live in Orlando? He says, have you been to Georgia? Okay, I understand. So that opportunity creates itself. So for us, we want to make sure that we're capturing that. So we put together a list of projects, and I'm going to go through these one at a time, kind of give you a little walkthrough, some cost estimates on what we have planned. Now these are projects that we identified as staff, and we're trying to build them probably over the next, I'm going to say, within the next 6 months up to the next 6 years and out. Some of them are going to have to be phased based upon how dollars become available and how the development can truly occur. And they're just in random order, but give you just kind of a frame of reference here. This is the Winter Haven Tennis Courts located just up the street on 3rd Street, north of Normayo Hall. This facility recently was renovated as far as court resurfacing last spring. One of our long-term goals is to completely revitalize this project and bring in clay courts or other soft court type services to make this a lifelong sport destination. We've got a great tennis population in Winter Haven. This is a facility that really hasn't had much renovations other than court resurfacing in many, many years. That's an old government, actually an old war building that sits on that property, that one and the Senior Adult Center, that have just been converted over time to accommodate our needs. We really need to renovate that space to make it more conducive for the users of that space. Right now, we lose a lot of our tennis players to other communities where they have those amenities. We want to capture them here. And the other thing I'll point out with a lot of these facilities like this one is used heavily by collegiate teams, and also Winter Haven High School tennis competes out of this site as well. So it's a very viable option for us to go in and renovate that space. What it will look like is probably going to be 10 to 12 clay courts or some mixture thereof, a new clubhouse facility, and we think that would probably, if everything goes is per our wish list, we'll put that out to bid sometime in 2016. This is Sertoma Park. Anybody who grew up in Winter Haven play Little League Baseball? I'm not going to ask you what year, but you probably played at Sertoma Park. I was there in the 70s. Brad, you were probably there just a few years before me. This is actually property we don't own. The city leases this property from the Daniels family. It dates back to the 60s, and actually we have a lease that takes us into, I want to say it's 2050 something. And we are in the process right now, in fact, we'll present to our Development Review Committee tomorrow a whole plan to renovate all the parking spaces out there. There's no paved parking on that property, which is a nightmare in terms of when you have tournaments and a lot of activity going on. So our first phase there is we're going to go in and we're going to renovate all this parking and create some hard surface parking and some organization to it. Following that, we're going to go in and work with the leagues that we have to figure out how do we expand this facility to accommodate what their needs are. Improve lighting, expanding fence lines, making it more attractive to bring in tournaments and some of the additional activities. Our time frame for this one is probably going to be 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. It's kind of a domino project that we've got to have a few other things happen in the pipeline to get us prepped for that. But that parking improvement will likely be happening in 2016 in a method that doesn't interfere with those leagues. That's the other challenge with these is we have to figure out ways to do these projects and still provide service at the same time. Lake Ship Park, this is immediately south of Sertoma Park, and I point this out just because the parking improvements that we're doing will actually come into play within the northern part of Lake Ship Park. We just did a major playground enhancement at Lake Ship Park. We also just in the recent years did some major boat ramp improvements there. So we're trying to revitalize that space at the same time. Again, giving access to the chain of lakes. This is a project that we're presently under design, and this is the Lake Maud Recreation Site. This is immediately north of Diamondplex. That's what you see down here. This is Avenue O here, one of our water plants there. The Lake Maud Recreation Site is property we acquired back in the early 2000s that was going to be developed as a well area and some recreational amenities. Well, it's kind of come and gone, and now we're at a point that we have such a demand for our recreational needs for our youth in terms of athletic fields that we've got to add some recreation components, particularly in this geographic area where we've got a limited service availability. We just don't have the facilities there. So this is about a $3 million project that we're in design on right now. That building that you see in the lower right-hand corner is First AME Church, if you're familiar with the area. And then this is what's being proposed for the development of that site. This is purely conceptual. We just released this 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, to the neighborhood and surrounding community. And you can see what we end up with there is the ability to have 3 large multi-purpose fields. They're shown as football fields there, but they can be used for a variety of different things. And then on 2 of those, diamond court sports that we would be able to do baseball or softball. Marching band competitions, football leagues, softball, baseball leagues, expanded soccer programs, all that can take place on there. And with that, there's also a walking trail that goes all the way around the property. There's a fishing area that's going to be on the Lake Idle in the upper right-hand corner. And the walking trail also connects across the street to tie into Lake Maud Nature Park. So this becomes a highly activated area. And if you think about immediately to the south of it is Diamondplex. So you've now got this whole swath of recreational activity. From PSC, where we built the soccer fields back in 2009, to Diamondplex, that has tons of activity into the Lake Maud area. And then you just go a couple blocks further north and you're into the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. Again, this is in design, the Lake Maud is in design right now, and that will probably go to bid realistically 2017, late 2016 to get that project underway. Diamondplex, we just did, those of you that play softball, anybody play softball at Diamondplex? A few people, so we have some shade structures out there. That's a project that the commission graciously gave us some funding to do that just got wrapped up. Cameron, what, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Week before Thanksgiving.
Week before Thanksgiving, so now there's shade structures out there to make that a little more accommodating for our spectators. One of the busiest sites we have in Winter Haven in terms of recreational activities. Everybody knows this is Chain of Lakes Complex. This is probably, for the longest time, we called this the giant elephant in the room because what's going to happen in Chain of Lakes Complex. We couldn't do a whole lot of planning or efforts with that. Thanks to the efforts of our commission, Commissioner Danson in particular, we were able to reach a level of settlement with the prior land development group that wanted to redevelop this site. This will remain in the city's ownership and be redeveloped in conjunction with Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing, the Tourist Development Board. The TDC is committed to put funding into this project, upwards of $10 million towards debt service. This will probably end up being somewhere in the range of, I'm going to guesstimate, about a $20 million project when it's all said and done. Our vision at this point, although we still need to do a master plan effort for the whole site, would be that the existing Chain Lakes complex, that building that you go into, would be renovated for arts and culture. It's already got a tremendous theater within it. We've got a booming cultural dynamic here in Winter Haven. We've got an internationally recognized theater. We've got great visual art exhibits, lots of opportunity for that. We don't necessarily have all the space for it. So our thought is that we could convert the gymnasium that's there now into what we call a black box. Those of you that are theater buffs probably know what a black box is. It actually shares a stage with the main stage of Theater Winter Haven. So it's perfect for that. Create office space and educational and training space for cultural arts. The school board has expressed interest through some of their staff of perhaps creating some type of a fame academy out of a building like this where we could have a performing arts academy right here in Winter Haven. Another great opportunity for partnership. The pool would remain immediately south of where the pool is in this kind of open area up in there. We're hoping to be able to develop what we call a field house or a multi-sport venue. It's basically a giant gymnasium, a bunch of basketball or volleyball courts, drop curtains that we can run basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, gymnastics, martial arts, exhibits, whatever, in a very wide open space, something that we do not have in Polk County anywhere today. And then our efforts on the lower fields would be to improve those so that we can get greater use for amateur athletic tournaments that can come into town, as well as to better cater to our local enthusiasts in those sports, our little leagues and such. And that's why I say Sertoma Park is kind of a domino project. We need to get through all of the master planning for this site and see, okay, what does that do to address youth sports needs, and then how do we supplement the balance of it into the renovation and design that gets started. This is South Central Park. You guys are going to get to see some cool stuff today that you've never seen before, which I think maybe only 2 or 3 people in this room have seen. This is South Central Park. This is immediately two blocks down from here. We've been working on this project since 2008. Is anybody from Advisors here? Okay, Advisors has been our design engineer on this project. They're now working with Little John. We are in the process of doing a little bit of a refresh on this. We did a project in 2008 to design all this stuff. Remember I told you it happened in 2008, a little bump, the economy, things slowed down. Our efforts to design this project were based upon how long does that last. Well, we're out of that now. Okay, so downtown is booming. When we finished that design in 2010, we had a lot of vacancy downtown. You know where People's Furniture is? People's Furniture was still in business then. The upstairs was completely unfinished. Now the downstairs has Stitch on Central, has a few other things that are going to be going into those spaces. And the second floor is completely renovated. Cap, is that space completely occupied, second floor?
100%.
Okay, 100%. We now have a new bar, or new adult beverage establishment on Central Avenue, Central Tavern. We're going to have another one down the street at Jensen's Corner Bar. We've got El Norteño down here. We've got Scores down here. We've got a lot of things that are happening that are bringing people to the downtown. So we had to look at this and say, what do we need to do different with the design from what we had? So this is what we're envisioning for downtown Winter Haven. This is South Central Park here. Avenue A, Central Avenue, so north is going this way. What we've done is we've basically taken all the parking spaces and created brick roadways. During the day, those parking spaces, I don't think this has the pointer on it.
Hit the button in the middle, T.
In the middle? Okay. So 4th Street is all brick paved. This parking area is all brick paved, and you can kind of see where there's parking spaces in there. During the day, when we need parking downtown, we can use that as parking. But come the weekend, when we do the various events we have, Mr. Cruz does a market down there twice a month. We do art festivals down there. We do food trucks. We do all these events downtown. We can actually close that space off and have what becomes a hard brick patio, an event space that allows us to maximize and dual use all that space. The other thing that we've done within this is we've taken what we call the old Hill building, and we've incorporated that into it. We're proposing to close down Magnolia Avenue entirely and create our trail system, which already exists, bring it down along 5th Street, take it across Avenue A, up in front of Andy Thornall, and continue on down until you hit Magnolia Avenue. And in 6 months or 7 months, you've got to go down to Grove Roots and have a fresh root beer, all from the downtown area. The other thing that happens with all this brick pavers is those roadways are designed that you actually drive up onto the pavers so that there's no curb line. So when you hit downtown, you feel a difference, you see a difference, you hear a difference in your tires as you drive across that. It causes you to slow down. Makes our downtown safer, makes that whole space active. We can close down any of those roads very easily within the design that we have. We hope to be able to have these construction documents revised in the spring and put this project to bid in late spring, and everything going as well, be in construction this summer. That will probably be about a 10 to 12 month construction window. About $3.5 million when it's all said and done. Economic impact for that, it's immeasurable for us at this point. What it does is it gives us a whole opportunity to get people into the downtown and have that dual maximum use of those properties. This is MLK Junior Park. This is immediately on the north side of town here, of downtown. We're looking to how do we improve this site to make it more user-friendly, more ADA compliant, more accommodating for our Cypress Gardens water ski team that does shows once a month, sometimes twice a month. This is probably going to be about a $2 million project when it's all said and done. And one of the things that we want to try and incorporate with this is a walking trail all the way around this lake. We're working with FDOT on a complete street redesign of that roadway. Now that road's real wide. You go on what we call an asphalt diet. The one going from, say, Wendy's all the way to the hospital. But can you imagine if you were able to come from the hospital or you're visiting a loved one and you just need to get out and clear your head, how refreshing would it be to be able to go take a walk around that lake through a park-like setting? So that's one of the visions that we have for that site. Downtown Trailhead Park, this is right across the street from the tennis courts. We have a project that's actually opens mid tomorrow. The first project of this strategic capital effort that we have, and that is to create a splash pad in Trailhead Park. This is a highly activated venue for youth. Got a great playground there. The playground gets completely overrun. It's like ants on an anthill in the middle of summer, and it's so hot that we need something to capture that energy and maybe not let them go someplace else. We want them to stay on site. So we're going to be building a, right in here, a splash pad. It would basically look something to this effect. Pavilions, picnic areas, so you've got small children, you're looking for something fun to do. You don't want to take them to the pool, you don't necessarily want to, nothing against Legoland, but you don't want to go spend the day at Legoland. You just want to go have some fun in a water environment. Boom, here's your opportunity. And then last but certainly not least, the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. Oh, let me back up one thing. On that trailhead splash pad, the way that we're doing some of these projects now is we're taking a design-build approach, because it's a faster process for us and allows us to better control our costs. It's about a $400,000 project. So when we start with our contractor, when we get their bids in tomorrow, their proposals of what their services can be, the first thing that we get to tell them is, here's the maximum amount that we as a city can spend on this project. You have $400,000 to do your design work and all the construction and get it up and running, period. Same way we did our parking garage, same way that we'll do our tennis courts. It's just a better approach for us because it helps us to manage the cost. It makes it easier for them to manage the cost. And then last, the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. This is Terrell's fine building over here. This is becoming a very active site. Always has been. It kind of ebbs and flows, but Terrell does a great job managing this site and programming it out. Built in the 1970s, needs a lot of work on the inside to make it a warmer, more friendly community environment. There's a lot of walls in there that institutionalize the space. So we're looking to spend about $1 million to go in there, improve some site visibility, just really dress up the venue, create a better fitness area within the building, and just make it more user-friendly for our current population. And with that, we go to the library.
You'll be able to ask a bunch of questions after Merle comes up. But one of the other items on the agenda talking about annexations and how we grow as a city. Merle has provided maps on your table, but he'll come up and talk to you. One of the good things about having Merle spent about 30 years in the county and also a couple years in the private sector. If you ever heard of the String Song area, he was part of all that. We received a lot of institutional knowledge. Merle came to work for the city of Winter Haven about 2.5, 3 years ago. So Merle Bishop for his presentation. Thank you.
Okay, I want to sort of carry on a theme that T. Michael talked about, and that was quality of life. Quality of life, how that is related to expansion of the city. One of the things that I was challenged with when I first came to work for the city about 2.5 years ago was how can we expand the city and square up the city boundaries and really grow the city of Winter Haven. Right now, the last census estimate we had, the city of Winter Haven had about a little over 38,000 people. We expect the next estimate that we get, which will be early next year, will be over 40,000 people inside the city. However, if you consider the city's service boundary, which is the area that includes unincorporated Polk County outside of the city, that the city provides water and sewer service, the population of that area, in terms of people that actually have a Winter Haven address, is about 78,000 people. And so those are people that are not counted as part of the city. So one of the things that the city certainly has been interested in is, of course, the big economic engine that we have out on Cypress Groves Boulevard is Legoland. And how do we capture that as being part of the city as well as some of the other commercial developments? So I've included a map on your table that shows this corridor and the city boundaries. And you can see the city limits is very irregular. It's that way along a lot of the city borders. The city of Winter Haven has a very ragged border. When I was with the county, on the other side, so to speak, I was always coming to the county manager and the county attorney and say, look what the city's doing, what they're annexing. This isn't right. Now I'm on this side saying, we want to annex this area. So it's interesting being on both sides, and I know what they're thinking on the county side, but it really is a benefit for everyone, for those facilities to be inside the city that are closest to where the services are. We already provide water and sewer, and we can provide better service if they're inside the city. I want to put this in perspective. I'll point out, because everybody's seen this map, they say, what is that green blob on the left-hand side of the map there? Well, that's an anomaly in the aerial photography. It's supposed to be the same color as everything else, but I don't know why it's like that. It just happened that way. But I want to use this map just to point out and give you a little bit of perspective of how cities are able to annex property. And we're governed by Chapter 171 of Florida statutes, which tells cities how you have to annex property. And it's not an easy process. Properties that come into the city, and I'll just point out right there is Ruby Tuesdays. When a piece of property comes in to develop in the county, and it's not in the city yet, and they need city service, they need to hook up to city water and sewer. We agree to do that because we're the only service provider that can do that. So we will give them an agreement to serve. And as part of that agreement to serve, we ask that they, in turn, agree or consent to be annexed when they become contiguous to the city. There's some properties that in this area that may be up in this area that we have a consent to annex, but we can't annex them yet because we have to be contiguous to their property. That is probably the most common way that cities annex additional properties is through service agreements and consent to annex, and as the city grows, they can annex other properties in. Another method that cities have to annex property, this is probably the most difficult method, because a lot of people see this big area up here. A lot of people call this the hole in the donut. Well, why don't you annex all of that property? We would love to annex that property. We serve all that property with utilities. When the city purchased the Garden Grove utility system and upgraded that, we serve all that area. The problem is, all these people have to, the majority of these people who are registered voters have to go to the polls and agree to approve their annexation. Typically what that means is they would pay the city taxes. They still pay county taxes, and on top of that, they would pay city taxes. One of the things that does happen is, in the area, in the unincorporated area, including Ruby Tuesdays, these commercial properties up here, and all this area here, if you're outside of the city limits and you're on the city service, we can charge 25% additional charge on their utility bill for water and sewer that we're providing them. We do not charge and cannot charge that surcharge for people inside the city. So one of the savings for people, you pay an additional taxes, but in the other side, you save because you don't have to pay that 25% when you come into the city. So in some cases, it may be a wash. It may not be any difference. In other cases, it may make a difference, particularly if you're in one of these residential areas and you have homestead exemption and other exemptions you have. It may not save you money. It may cost you some more money. So it becomes difficult to annex residential properties where voters have to approve to annex. And just ask the city of Lakeland, who years ago went through a very long, expensive process to get communities outside of the city to agree to be annexed. The other method there's three methods. The other method that we can use to annex property is called the involuntary method. It has to involve commercial properties that do not have any registered voters within those properties. I mentioned that some of these properties up here, we do have a consent to annex because when they came in for service, we said, we'll serve you, but you need to agree to annex. We can include those properties as well as other properties that we do not have a consent for. That's why it's called involuntary. However, to do that, we have to have at least 50% of the parcels and 50% of the land that have agreed to be annexed. So typically it's called a 50-50 because you have to have at least 50% that are 50% of the parcels and 50% of the land. Then you can include other parcels. Even though they haven't consented to agree. So I'll show you that at the end of this presentation, but what I wanted to really talk to you about was our efforts to work with Legoland to bring Legoland into the city. And they have agreed to come in. The annexation consent for that property actually dates back to when it was Cypress Gardens Adventure Park. And one of the reasons that there has been a reluctance on both parties to annex that is because what I mentioned, the added expense. Because you're taxed upon not only your ad valorem real estate property, you're also taxed on your tangible property. And when I looked at the tangible property value for Legoland, I was astounded. I said, good grief, it was like $52 million. Well, I got to thinking about that. I said, well, yeah, okay, there's water slides, there's a dragon roller coaster, you can think of all of those things. It adds up pretty fast. And so the actual increased tax bill to Legoland was about $500,000. And so that right away, sort of put up a concern that, how would we do that? How would Legoland respond to that? We determined that there was a savings to them in terms of their 25% surcharge that they would no longer have to pay of about $150,000. So their net cost would be about $350,000. There's an additional savings to them as well, because they have to pay MSTUs to the county for libraries and parks and fire. There's a utility charge for stormwater utilities that they don't have to pay. So those are savings for them, but still their net, you can say out-of-pocket cost for them to annex would be $350,000. So people ask, why in the world would Legoland want to annex? And so that's some of what I want to talk to you about today. Here's the map that shows, of course, here's the Legoland property. I don't know if you recall, but this is what is typically called this red hatched area is the historical gardens. That was the old Cypress Garden itself, where the mansion is, where the gardens are. The ski show occurs right in this area, right in here. That was purchased by Polk County when Kent Busher bought it for the Adventure Park to help make that deal possible. And so that is owned by the county, and this is owned by Merle Entertainments. We propose to annex all of this and are talking with the county about their consent to annex that as well. This property here is the current city boundaries. This right here, just to give you a little bit more perspective, that right there is the Gold's Gym property. And Ruby Tuesdays is right here. So you can see a lot of that new development is in the city already. You probably heard about this market study that was recently conducted by the Economic Development Council in working with the city. We hired an economic analyst from the University of Central Florida, Dr. Josh Harris, who did this market study and identified what the potential is for the Cypress Gardens corridor and what the economic impact of Legoland is and what it means in terms of moving forward for both the city and the county and Legoland. Of course, several needs were pointed out that we already pretty much knew, but this verified or validated what we anticipated. That is, there needs to be better branding. There needs to be better signage on the corridor itself. There needs to be a sense of arrival. It doesn't need to look like any other place in Florida. And so there needs to be reasons for people to come and to stay. There was opportunities that were identified as well. And that was certainly the opportunity for more hospitality type uses, more hotels, more restaurants and things of that nature. So we took this study and said, we really would like to implement this and create a quality place that people want to come to. And Adrian Jones with Legoland saw this study and said, absolutely, I totally agree. I want to be a partner with Winter Haven and help to accomplish, make this happen. And it was this study, I believe, that he was already agreeable to annex, but this study helped him see, I think, the long-term future, and he realizes that the success of Winter Haven and the quality of life in Winter Haven is intricately connected to the success of Legoland. And so therefore, he was wanting to do that. One of the things that we typically hear about, gosh, we don't want the Cypress Gardens Boulevard to become another, 192. Well, there's 192. And I think we all agree that we don't want to see that happen. The other one was, we don't want to see it become another international drive. There's two international drives. There's one international drive north of Sand Lake Road. This is it. And there's another international drive south of Sand Lake Road. And when I got this picture, I didn't realize I captured the Legoland billboard right there on International Drive, north of Sand Lake Road. But you can see the clutter of signs and just it's not very appealing. The sidewalk is right there next to the road. There's no shade. This just looks like any other place in Florida, and that's not what we would like to see for the Cypress Gardens Boulevard. This is the other international drive south of Sand Lake Road, and what it looks like. So more pictures. You can see that the sidewalk is, you have a safe walking distance from the road. You've got shade. The signage isn't, in your face. It's really a nice environment that people would want to come and stay and spend some time, which is one of the things that we would like to accomplish. This is Legoland, California. This is Armada Drive in Carlsbad, California. And you can see the contrast there from some of the other earlier pictures I showed of 192 and International Drive North. I just put that in to give you a little bit of perspective of what we are really trying to achieve. Another concern that Legoland has had is in terms of just the roadway itself and maintenance of the roadway. This is the Cypress Gardens Boulevard. I point out this is east of Overlook Drive. This is from Overlook out to 27. It's just grass. Sometimes I had hoped to get a picture of the grass several weeks after it had been cut, because that's typically what it looks like. Because DOT maintains, they have 11 cycles a year that they maintain this. And so there are times of the year that this is not very attractive looking. This is Cypress Gardens Boulevard west of Overlook Drive. This is Overlook Drive to US 17. Why does it look like this? Because the city of Winter Haven maintains this. The city of Winter Haven has, 42 cycles?
41 cycles.
41 cycles a year. So that's why it looks like this. So one of the things that we have talked to Legoland about was the ability to take that additional tax, some of that additional tax money that they're paying, and provide a benefit to not only Legoland, but to other properties along the corridor to help it to look more like this. I mentioned the 50-50. This is Legoland that we are wanting to annex early this spring, I would say. It's our plan to do that. We have to go through a process. The City Commission has to hold 2 public hearings for that. This is an area that we also intend to come back in sometime in the summer to do a 50-50, which the green areas are areas that we have an agreement for. The other areas would be involuntary that we don't have agreement for. So we'll be able to complete that city boundaries along the corridor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will entertain any questions that you may have for a few minutes. If you have questions, if you don't, one of the key things on your table, there's a card with some QR codes that are on there, but also some information with our contact emails and phone numbers. So if you have any questions that we haven't answered, just email them. Email those particular questions to Merle or T. Michael, or if you have a bunch of questions, send them straight to Donna. We all send emails. If you've ever emailed me, I will respond to your email even when I don't agree with you. I'll still respond. So are there any questions that anyone has on any of the items? Yes?
Yeah, my big concern is the fact that we don't have the Norman Hall. We don't have a place in our town that we can all get together for a big community event. What's up with that?
She asked about the Norman Hall. We're going through the process to acquire Norman Hall. Representative John Woods, this particular legislative cycle, has decided to submit a bill for Winter Haven to acquire that. We are still going through the process. It does look good for us, but there is just I often tell people it's like turning a yacht around in one of the Chain of Lake canals. It's just something we just can't do in government. It kind of takes its toll of getting it through and then turning around. So we're going through that process to do that. Hopefully, however, we will continue to expand in an economic development standpoint, that we'll have more groups coming to our area that want to build hotels or build these type of facilities, or also 40,000 square foot facility at Chain of Lakes Complex potentially could also be used if it's designed appropriately for those big events. But we are pushing forward trying to get Norman Hall for the residents of this community. Yes?
Yeah, I have some concerns regarding how many fast food restaurants pop up.
A lot of people don't realize, and we hear the same thing. I get often, and if you follow me, or I send things to Twitter all the time about, can we have the Dillards come back to their emails. What you have is, in a business comment, the city of Winter Haven cannot tell a private developer what they can allow on their property. Our goal as staff is to try to find a way to make sure that it fits in with the quality of life we're trying to create in Winter Haven, and that is zoned appropriately. But I can't tell you, if you own a bunch of acres and McDonald's comes in and says, I want to spend $20 million on this piece of property, as long as it meets the criteria for zoning in that area, we have to do it. But you think about it, a lot of people complain about Family Dollar or Dollar General. I hear it all the time. But those same individuals are there shopping because that's the clientele that's coming in. And so businesses don't just pop up on your doorstep unless people are going in there. Our goal is to try to create an environment that brings in those Targets, or brings in the Ann Taylors, the black and white stores, or brings in the Bahama Breeze. So we've got to create a climate as a city. We've got to help to put the infrastructure in place, help to create the dynamics of making those people want to come to our area so they can say, this is a community that's growing, and we need to be there before everyone else comes along and takes up all of the property that's around. And so we get it all the time, but these individuals are often the EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, local commissioners. Commissioner Dantzler is here. He is one that will often call me just to see what's your thought on this idea. Are you thinking about this? Are you going out to this route? So we do think about that, but it's hard when you've got private development. Our goal is, and Merle will tell you, the first thing I said to him when I interviewed him, I said, Merle, what I want in a growth management director is how to get to what?
Yes.
Yes. It's not about putting up barriers to stop people from being able to do their job. But how do we get to yes? How do we as government stop putting barriers in the way, but remove the barriers to allow for these people to grow their businesses, those that are already here and those who want to be here. And I think that mindset has been going through his department, and not only his department, but transferring over. How do we get to yes? We've got to stop putting up barriers in government and start making ways for people to be able to do business in our community. I think that the police patrol is on this side, trying to tell me to move out of the way. So if we don't have any more questions, we thank you. Please email us. Remember that the information in reference to the projects Those are things that we put forward, but they haven't all been signed off on in regards to how we move forward, the time frames. But these are just based on the expertise of our staff. But these are the projects that the commissioners at the June meeting endorsed for us to go through. So thank you for your time and thank you for the opportunity to share.
Hello, sorry, I'm Carrie Harrington. I am our social media and marketing chair here at Endeavor. Usually I can project, but I seem to have lost my voice. I just want to give a huge thank you to Deric and T. Michael and Merle and the whole city staff for coming out, and the commissioners to support this and our efforts. And then just tell you a little bit about our group. We endeavor to connect, inspire, and engage our young professionals. So we have marketing or just networking meetings where our young professionals can get to know other individuals that are like-minded, kind of the same quality type of people that they want to get to know. We want to inspire them, so we have our Trailblazers event and other events with established professionals that are leaders in this community, so we can help inspire our young professionals to become that, give them some direction on how to do that. And then we want to engage them, and that's why we have events like this, so that our young professionals can know what is happening in the community and what's going on and how they can get involved. And I know that our demographic today is maybe heavy on the established professionals, but we can help you guys with your businesses too. As you guys are growing your businesses and building new professionals, we can help you retain the ones that you have, and help build better professionals that are going to serve you in this community better. So there's some paperwork on the table out at the front that has some information on membership and also sponsorships. Sponsorships come with a few free members, depending on the different levels. So we really appreciate you guys all for coming, and there's some surveys, so please let us know how you liked today. And there's also some information about our next speaker, Dr. Deric Feacher from Florida Southern College, talking about free enterprise and kind of changing business growth and how we think about that. So hope to see you guys all again in the future, and thank you so much for coming.